The Bible isn't just a book of random stories. It's 66 different books that come together to tell one story. An incredible one about God's love for us. And now for an amazing story. Inspired by the book of John, chapters 18 to 20.
John kept his eyes on the rocky ground of Golgotha, desperately wishing he could wake from this nightmare. Beside him, Mary Magdalene wept softly. Neither of them wanted to look up. They knew what they would see.
How did it come to this?
John retraced the last day in his mind. After the Passover meal the evening before, Jesus had warned his friends that changes were coming.
Now I am going to the one who sent me. It is for your good that I am going away.
Later, Jesus and his disciples prayed in a grove of olive trees known as Gethsemane, and a mob sent by the high priest came to arrest him. Jesus' followers scattered, and John, well, he just shook his head, trying to clear his mind.
We ran away. We deserted Jesus. You don't have to talk about it. We just left while he laid down his own rights over and over. Peter and I did follow at a distance, too scared to stand up for him. They took him to the high priest, right? First to Annas, then to Caiaphas.
The high priest questioned Jesus. His shrill voice rang through the open windows.
I command you under oath, tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God. Yes, it is just as you say.
John had winced. He believed Jesus is the Son of God. But to the religious leaders, Jesus had just committed the greatest crime, claiming he was God.
After that, they hauled Jesus off to the Roman governor, Pilate. I heard the mob shouting. I don't know what happened at the palace exactly, just what I've heard. The religious leaders wanted Jesus dead.
John could just picture it. Pilate standing on his balcony, the Jewish leaders hanging back outside because they were unwilling to enter the home of a Roman, believing that it would make them unclean.
Judge him yourselves, but we aren't allowed to put him to death.
Pilate had interviewed Jesus and found no reason to put him to death. Pilate even had him whipped and crowned with thorns to satisfy the Jews.
Look, I'm bringing Jesus out to you. I find no basis for a charge against him.
But only one thing would please the crowd.
Crucify him!
Crucify him! Pilate interviewed Jesus again and tried to set him free. But the mob was ruthless. So finally, Pilate handed Jesus over to the religious leaders. Soldiers came, took charge of him, leading him away to be hung on a cross on Golgotha, the same hill where John and Mary Magdalene were standing right now.
Last night, Jesus said he could call on God anytime to send angel armies to protect him. So why doesn't he do that? Why is he letting this happen? I don't get it. I don't know.
John finally dared to lift his eyes. Nearby, he saw Jesus' mother, Mary. And then he saw Jesus, hanging on the cross between two other men.
This can't be happening.
In that moment, Jesus met John's eyes. Jesus looked down at his mother, eyes filled with pain and compassion.
Mother, here's your son.
Jesus nodded toward John.
John, take care of her like your own mother.
John nodded, speechless. Even as he was dying, Jesus was thinking of others, putting them before his own pain. Soon after, Jesus cried out,
"It is finished."
Then he bowed his head and died. John and all of Jesus' friends were devastated. They thought that Jesus had given himself up for nothing. Later that evening, a man named Joseph took Jesus' body down from the cross and buried it in a garden tomb. Nicodemus, a religious leader who had followed Jesus, helped. Together, they both rolled a great stone in front of the entrance. For 3 long days, Jesus' friends hid, convinced the religious leaders would come after them next. But on the 3rd day, Mary Magdalene came to where Peter and John were staying.
I went to the tomb. They've taken the Lord. I don't know where they've put him.
Peter and John burst through the door, sprinting for the garden.
Look, the stone's been rolled away. The tomb is empty. Nothing left but the clothes they wrapped him in.
Peter and John returned home. Mary Magdalene stayed behind in the garden, weeping. When a man approached, Mary thought he was a gardener.
Mary?
Immediately her eyes were opened. It was Jesus. He was alive and whole.
Teacher! Go tell everyone who believes in me.
Overjoyed, Mary Magdalene returned to the disciples.
I have seen the Lord!
John and the others were amazed.
He is alive! What do we do now?
They didn't have long to wait. That evening, Jesus appeared in the room with them, even though the doors were locked.
May peace be with you. Lord, it's you.
The disciples were overjoyed to see their friend and Lord. Jesus was alive. He had defeated death, and his friends would dedicate their lives to telling others about it.